Hello, today I'm going to talk about Rhino. Rhino is McNeil's 3D CAD software, which developed already a decade. And I was very surprised many architectural engineers who never use Rhino in their professional work, or even students who studying architecture or civil engineering, they actually never used Rhino. But it's really useful software. For me, I've been using Rhino since 2004 when I started product design study. Since then, I used in many for furniture design or product design. And then since I started study architecture, I use Rhino for architecture. Um, so not only for architects or engineers, I would like to also talk about why we should use Rhino for software engineers or IT developers who work for the different software vendors, because not every software has direct link with Rhino. But it's pity because Rhino supports many file formats, and it's really intuitive software which can develop many different workflow between engineering software and architectural design software. So it would be really interesting to develop some of the live connection for such as coordination software such as Navisworks or Solibri, especially Solibri, or maybe some of the viewers like a tech viewer, Insight, or Dialog viewer or Modello, and etc. So it's really intuitive software. It's my favorite software in my entire experience in last 13 years in building industry. And we don't have to use entire commands. It's really simple software. So if you use just 5 to 10% of commands for Rhino, you can manage for most of building industry or civil or infrastructure project. So I wish you learn something through this video, or at least get some idea how why we should use Rhino. And if you have any question, please do not hesitate to ask me or share this video so we can encourage more people to join our community. Thank you.
So to explain my my opinion about Rhino, I have drawn here a simple mind map with software icons. So let's go ahead each category, and I'm going to demonstrate why Rhino is important. So as you can see, we have like in building industry, we have like many softwares we use between the companies and between the disciplines. And of course, if you look this data flow, it's quite complex. I'm just curious myself how much data would be exchanged between the disciplines. Without specifying the format, it's already very complex mind map. You can take a look. So Rhino is originally developed for 3D CAD solution, so such as furniture design or product design, and they have extended their function specifically for architecture and engineering last couple of years. And especially since Grasshopper was developed for Rhino, there's huge potential to automate workflow for architects and engineers, as well as designers. Rhino supports different languages, and for example, you can program with a Python or Visual Basic, and also C#. And there is also current development with F#. You can integrate with Rhino, and which you can automate your workflow. Java is not supported, But if you use Java programming, of course, you could maybe use some of the other applications such as processing, and the processing result can be also back to Grasshopper. So of course, there is C++. You could also use it, but Rhino doesn't support those languages. Basically, these four languages are main supports by Rhino. And the Grasshopper is visual programming, so it supports huge possibility, possibilities or potential for AEC industry. And if you look at the data interpolation, the Excel is always one of the key software we can use to transfer different data. And and nowadays there are many other packages, but for example, Conveyor by Proving Ground or Geometry Gym or Constructru, they are very good solution that offers Rhino or Grasshopper's output to interpolate the data to the other softwares. Um, of course, Rhino is mainly for CAD system, but you also have possibility to have many add-ins, especially for building information modeling. And I'm going to talk about each category here. Of course, for the graphic and 2D drafting or documentation, we could also use Rhino to AutoCAD and or Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop, or we can also integrate between processing and Grasshopper for the graphic design. And Rhino also supports many different file formats, but especially for the rendering, you can be even more flexible with Rhino because Rhino is very simple software. And as you can see, most of current real-time rendering engine, they support Rhino plugin. And also currently Rhino.inside, which works for Unity 3D, or there is Datasmith, which Rhino's data directly link between Unreal Engine. So you can also use your Rhino model to as far as gaming engine. Rhino supports many different formats, so we can work together. We can coordinate 3D CAD file from Rhino with 3ds Max or Maya or even Blender, FormJet or Autodesk Alias. And there are many FreeCAD or ZBrush or Mudbox for 3D sculpture or artist who can go even more greater level of details in their artistic work. And also this Rhino CAD file can be worked with infrastructure softwares. Currently, Sophistic developed Grasshopper plugin for Rhino, and it's really good for bridge design. And Rhino supports variety of CAD formats, so we can also use Rhino's output in Civil 3D or infrastructure. You can also use it for civil design. I mean, basically, we can export 3D WG file from Rhino, so which means we can use in any other civil or infrastructure software. What is really interesting for me is also building information modeling methodology. So many BIM software, authoring software nowadays supports Grasshopper integration with Rhino, especially BricsCAD, or Rhino work in progress, Rhino 7 work in progress. It calls Rhino.inside, which is going to be integrated with Revit, Autodesk Revit. And also Grasshopper plugin for ArchiCAD is also works really well. Visual Arc is Rhino's another plugin, which we can use Rhino model as a BIM elements. So we can put attribute or IFC class or or parameters for Rhino elements, and we can use we can use it as a BIM software. It supports also land design or for the landscape designing and any kind of format. If we use Rhino, and you can also script actually IFC exporter yourself, and Rhino element can be used for any kind of BIM software because BIM authoring softwares are mainly supports the IFC file format. For me, I'm very interested in open buildings. They have currently developed quite a lot in BIM function on top of MicroStation. And when I tested it with Rhino, when you import Rhino file, 3DM file in open buildings, it supports all the layers from Rhino. So which means even though there is no direct connection between Rhino and Grasshopper, we can basically use Rhino file to work with building information modeling. And in 3D CAD here, if you look at there's Inventor or SolidWorks or SDS2, Autodesk Advanced here, or here Ecosoft's Athene, which is really good for cotton wall kind of prefabricate, almost final detail ROD 450 or beyond 400 or beyond 450, so we can really finalizing your detail. And most of these softwares basically reading 3D DWG file or Rhino file format, so you can really make your detailed model with Rhino to be able to use it for the digital fabrication. So we can import Rhino model to Inventor, and we can use Inventor Cam or SolidWorks to SolidWorks Cam or Surf Cam. And also Grasshopper and Rhino has KUKA plugin, so you can also use it for robotic fabrication, or you can just simply use Rhino Cam for your milling machine. Or from MiTech from MyTech from Canada, you can also use Rhino model for very detailed timber structure model, or there is also development for MEP component, piping components from Rhino. So you can do really many like really detailed model you can achieve with Rhino. Sometimes if you use just standard BIM authoring software such as Revit, it's really rigid and there's a limitation to make a very detailed model in Revit. Of course you can make it, but it's not very efficient. So using these more precise CAD software such as Inventor or Rhino, and you can deliver almost as constructed model for your finalized detail. Also, Rhino model can be coordinated by Navisworks, or you can also export 3D DWG to use in Solibri, or you can script to export IFC file to Solibri, and you can coordinate your Rhino model. Or there is BIM Vision or DDS CAD Viewer or Tekla BIM Site or BIM Collapse Zoom. They mostly support IFC file, or DDS CAD or Solibri or Navisworks supports 3D WG file. So you can also simply export your Rhino model to coordinate with different BIM software or 3D CAD software. What's very interesting is also Rhino had currently many structural analysis software such as Sophistic or Caramba 3D, SAP 2000 or SCI Engineer, or STEPS, or Druber's RFM. They all now has a Grasshopper plugin for Rhino, so you can directly link your structural calculation model to those calculation software, static software, which is also very nice. And of course, these 4D, 5D, 6D simulation or project management, as far as facility management software, they are not really related to 3D DWG file or 3DM file, but since Rhino can export IFC file with certain plugin, for example, Visual Arc, or if you use Geometry Gym, you could convert your Rhino model to IFC file so that you could use your Rhino model for project management software such as iConstruct for Navisworks, or the Rufus, or Autodesk 4G, Building One, which one tools, or Ecodomos is also very precise software for facility management, and I2 or CostX for the cost estimation, or you can use your Rhino IFC output for VCAD, so you can visualize your data, or you can use your NeoTwin so that you can manage your project management, and also Bexel's Manager, which is also really amazing software for 4 and 5D, 4D or 5D, as far as 6D simulation. And also Rhino model can be used for energy simulation, such as Autodesk Flow Design or CFD. Of course, if we use IFC file, we can push button as far as Green Building Studio. Or if you use Rhino Grasshopper interface, then we can use Ladybug. Or Rhino model can be exported to SketchUp or Revit, and we can use Sapphire for more energy simulation, and also Bentley product, or some of the mechanical analysis using solar computer, or dialogues for electronical lighting analysis. We can always use Rhino model to simulate more analysis. And Grasshopper's model now by shape driver, we can also display or present a Grasshopper parametric model in cloud environment, or you can simply export different CAD format to display in Sketchfab or Modello, so you can show your model or share your model to different project team. Beam Plus or Beam Spot, it also supports mainly IFC file format, but since we can export Rhino model to IFC, you can also use any this sort of software in cloud system. You can also use your Rhino model by scripting from Grasshopper, or you can programming with C# or other programming language to send it to Power BI, or this Power BI model can be graphically visualized in VCAD or Tableau, or there's also great data analysis service called Contact, where you can collect your field conditions, that data, and then synchronize through the sensor with sort of data visualization application. And you can also optimize some of the parameter with Wallace, or you can also use your Rhino model to specify or more analyzing the data through Solibri, which is also possible. So as you can see, I'm just talking about just not every software in our industry, but some of the major software which Rhino can support, so that the possibility of all this data flow can be done by Rhino. But I'm just very surprised that not many users or architects or engineers actually using Rhino. So I just want to demonstrate why we should use Rhino. And Rhino is really sustainable software. The McNeil developing or upgrading software regularly, and they always respond to community's feedback. So I really recommend to start to use Rhino. Especially Rhino will be kind of Swiss knife for BIM workflow. So guys, if you consider if I should use it another software or should I run Rhino, then please don't hesitate it. Go for it. I really think that Rhino is the one of the best software to make many impossible things to be uh, possible. So I think that's all for today, and I would like to show next video sort of top 50 commands for architects and engineers to use Rhino's top 50 commands. Actually, you don't really have to use 100% function for Rhino to work in AEC industry. It's if you know more or less 5 to 10% of commands from Rhino, then you can manage almost all kind of AEC project, as far as infrastructure project. So stay tuned, and if you liked the video, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much. Bye bye.